John sat on the old wooden bench, staring at the rising sun. The sky was painted in soft orange and pink. It was peaceful, but his heart was heavy. John had lost his job 6 months ago. Bills were piling up, and he didn't know how to take care of his family anymore. His wife, Sarah, worked long hours at the diner, but her paycheck wasn't enough. Their 2 kids, Emma and Jake, were too young to understand why they sometimes had to eat just bread and butter for dinner. Every morning, John went out looking for work. He knocked on doors, asked at construction sites, and checked every job board. But the town was small, and jobs were hard to find. "I'm sorry, we're not hiring," was all he ever heard. Each rejection made him feel like a failure, but he couldn't give up. He had promised Sarah on their wedding day that he would always take care of her. He thought about that promise every day. One afternoon, as John walked past the grocery store, he saw a man unloading heavy boxes. The man looked tired, so John offered to help. The man introduced himself as Mike, the store manager. After they finished, Mike asked, "Do you need work?" John nodded quickly, his eyes lighting up. Mike handed him a mop and said, "It's not much, but if you clean the store every night, I'll pay you $50 a week." John was grateful for the chance, even if it wasn't enough to cover all their bills. He started working every night after putting Emma and Jake to bed. He mopped the floors, cleaned the shelves, and made the store shine. Some nights, he was so tired he could barely stand, but he kept going. He remembered Sarah's smile and the way Emma and Jake laughed when they were happy. That gave him strength. One evening, after finishing his shift, John saw an ad on the store's bulletin board. It was for free online classes in computer skills. He tore off the little paper with the website and took it home. He didn't have a computer, but the public library did. The next day, after his morning job search, he went to the library and signed up. The classes were hard at first. John hadn't studied in years, and he didn't understand much about computers. But he stayed late at the library every day, learning little by little. He promised himself he would get a better job for his family. Weeks turned into months. Sarah noticed the changes in John. He looked tired, but there was a fire in his eyes she hadn't seen before. She asked him one night, "What keeps you going?" John smiled and said, "You and the kids. I want to give you all a better life." One day, John saw an opening for an office assistant job at a local company. The requirements mentioned basic computer skills. He hesitated at first, afraid he wouldn't be good enough, but Sarah encouraged him. "You've worked so hard, John. You can do this," she said. With her support, he applied and got called for an interview. John was nervous. He wore his only suit, which was a little too old and tight. During the interview, he talked about his work ethic and his determination to learn. The manager, Mr. Harris, was impressed. "You remind me of myself when I was younger," Mr. Harris said. "You've got the job." John started working at the office the following week. It wasn't easy. He made mistakes and felt overwhelmed at times, but he never gave up. He stayed late to finish his work and often brought home manuals to study. "Mister," Harris noticed John's dedication and started giving him more responsibilities. Over time, John learned how to manage tasks, work with teams, and even train new employees. A year later, John got promoted to a higher position. His salary was enough to pay off their debts and even save for the kids' future. Emma and Jake didn't have to eat bread and butter for dinner anymore. They could finally have toys and new clothes. Sarah didn't have to work extra shifts at the diner. Life was better, but John never forgot the tough times. One summer evening, John gathered his family in the living room. He had a surprise for them. He opened a small box and handed Sarah a necklace with a little heart pendant. "This is for you," he said, "for all the nights you believed in me when I didn't believe in myself." Then he gave Emma and Jake new backpacks. "These are for school," he said, "because I want you to have every chance in life." Tears filled Sarah's eyes. "You've done so much for us," she said. "We're so proud of you." John hugged his family tightly. He looked at them and remembered his promise. He had kept it. But deep inside, he knew this wasn't the end. He wanted to keep growing, keep learning, and keep giving his family the best life he could. John's story became an inspiration in their small town. People often came to him for advice, asking how he turned his life around. John always said the same thing: hard work, hope, and the love of my family. The sun set outside their window, painting the sky in soft orange and pink. This time, John wasn't sitting on a bench feeling lost. He was home, surrounded by the people he loved, ready for whatever life would bring next.